Gosh, and people who say that, like, Formula One is boring, well...
Yeah, I mean, we thought there'd be no news.
I know, look at it now.
Yeah, a few things happened, didn't it?
Just a few.
Welcome to episode 2 of Stop the Lights, your new Formula One podcast in Ireland with Ciaran and Olivia. I'm Ciaran, and you?
I'm Olivia.
Yes, Olivia. We have got to episode 2 and the season is over, the end of season test is over, the end of season tyre test is over, and then we were like, oh, maybe there won't be any news. That little breaking meme template that the FIA and Formula One account use has been working overtime. There's been a fair bit of off-season news already.
Oh my god, it's been, like, my head was spinning. I don't know how the people in the F1 offices felt, because they were literally like, okay, more breaking news, okay, more breaking news, okay, more breaking news. Because yes, they had the award ceremony that took place on the 13th, and then literally in the 14 days since then, it has just been like boom, 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 one thing after another. Yeah. I did not expect there to be this much news so quickly. I was expecting it to be saved until January, but yeah, just before Christmas, some lovely presents for people.
Yeah, I we'll get into what the news is, but I think probably why it all came out now is that just because we think they all went on holidays, they actually didn't. You know, they're not really on a break yet. They're probably on a break now, right?
Yeah.
People in the factory, because they all went back to the factories, and like Lewis Hamilton was there being paraded around the Mercedes factory in a car and stuff. So they've done all of that wind down stuff. I've got some really interesting things I found out about what Red Bull gave their staff as Christmas presents this year, thanks to an insider on TikTok I found whose husband works at Red Bull. I'll share that with you a little bit later on. But I think they're probably all kind of only winding down now for Christmas. The biggest news probably, like, since Lewis Hamilton announced he was being moved over to Ferrari, since he was leaving Mercedes, there's been 25 of those breaking templates that have been tweeted out by F1. 25 over the last season. That's incredible. Sergio Perez is gone. We were speculating in the first episode whether he was going to be driving for Red Bull. He is not. He is gone. I think Liam Lawson was always going to get the seat. You weren't too sure?
Yeah, like, I wondered, because with Liam being so aggressive against Checo on track, and the fact that it was very much speculated that Red Bull were not pleased with that, it has now since come out that as much as they were kind of like, here, cool the jets a little bit, stop being so aggressive, they were actually kind of impressed with his tenacity, and they thought that he might actually be able to be a good backup for Max Verstappen. But I don't know, I'm still like, I think Liam's a good driver, but I feel extremely bad for him and the reaction that has happened online, because I don't know if you've seen it, but some of the messages have been absolutely atrocious. I understand people are upset, but for anybody to have been surprised by this, especially after what Checo said at the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, he essentially said that we're going to be going into breakup talks after this. Yeah. The writing was on the wall. The worst one I've seen was, because there's a load of people making jokes about Checo being connected to the Mexican cartel, which, you know, that is completely unfounded. As far as I know, he has no connection to them. Just because he's Mexican doesn't mean that the cartel are getting involved. But they had a video, and it was a clip from The Fall Guy where Ryan Gosling's character is being doused in gasoline. And then they're saying, it's like, oh, this is what's going to happen to Liam Lawson when the Mexican cartel get a hold of him. And it's like, why are you so, like, stop it. Like, that's not funny.
No.
And, like, this guy is supposed to be able to celebrate the fact that he's after getting this amazing job opportunity just before Christmas. And he had to delete all of his social media. He had to deactivate a bunch of them. I don't know whether he's brought them back on yet. I haven't checked, but they definitely were deactivated for a period of time. And, you know, you have to feel for the guy. As much as I feel for Checo, at least he was kind of like prepared that he was already going to be like, okay, Christmas is going to be like the aftermath of all of this. Whereas Liam thought that it was going to be a great celebratory thing. And then the internet starts throwing all this stuff at him. What is wrong with people?
It's obviously hard to turn down the Red Bull drive, right? Do you think he was tempted to turn it down? Is it a poison chalice? Was he guaranteed by Christian Horner and Red Bull that Red Bull are now changing tactic and they're going to go with two good drivers, right? One absolutely outstanding driver in Max Verstappen, but it's not just all going to be about Max Verstappen. It's also going to be about Liam Lawson.
Well, you say that now because remember last episode we also talked about the driver 1-2 sort of situation.
Yes.
Well, Christian Horner actually came out and he was talking to TalkSport and discussing the whole fact of Hamilton and Leclerc. They're both going to be taking points away from each other in the next season because they're both going to be trying to fight for victories, yada, yada, yada. And he essentially said, Max Verstappen is the most precious asset of F1. We are perhaps a little different from other teams on these choices, but it's about communication, about being clear with the pilots. Max is our main driver. If Liam manages to get close to him, it's great, but the reality is that Max is expected to win. In football, you can't play with 2 points of weight. A team like Ferrari will have 2 drivers who take points from each other. You have to support both drivers, but this sometimes becomes a reason for division within a team. We have different approaches and it's fascinating.
I don't think I'd like to work at Red Bull as a driver, being a second to Max Verstappen. Alex Albon took so long to bounce back. He was so hurt and we saw the drive to survive fall off a cliff from him. You know, we saw him completely go down a dark, dark path. Now he's with Williams. He's doing really well, but it took him a long time. Sergio Perez probably never is going to come back from this. You know, he's never going to recover mentally from this. It was a horrible year. He didn't even finish the last race. You know, like it's just horrible. It's been a horrible 2024 for him. Liam Lawson, I hope we don't see a capitulation from Liam Lawson. He has so much potential. I fear for any driver number 2 to Max Verstappen.
Yeah, and I think as much as we know that Liam has the goods, whether or not he's going to get a little, because he is still very new, he's very green. He's only had, 11 races in total or something like that. I hope that he holds the head and doesn't go too gung-ho and like start crashing out in the first couple of races because we have seen that happen in the past, that sometimes you get into the car that you've been wanting for ages and you kind of just go balls to the wall and then you end up in the wall. So you don't want that to happen. He needs to keep the head. He needs to just drive the way that we know that he could if he had a better car under him than the V-carb. But I'd be worried in case if he doesn't perform within the first, say...
I was going to ask you, give me a amount of races that Christian Horner, who likes to pull the trigger quickly, in fairness, how many races does he give Liam Lawson if he's not scoring points or if he's making big mistakes? And I don't really see big mistakes in him. I didn't see big mistakes in Colapinto either until
they started happening.
Them, right? You know, I was very impressed with him. So that obviously it can happen to anybody, right? But what do you give him? Do you give him 12 races? Do you give him half a season? No,
I was shaking my head for those of you that couldn't see me. I think cause I would actually have said 6.
Wow.
But I would have even said it's like
you are harsh. You are harsh team principal.
But the thing is, like, they have to be. Like, they need someone who can slot in and start performing straight away because they know that if they don't have that, then they don't win the Constructors' Championship again, or they don't even come second. Like, they weren't even in the running by the time Abu Dhabi came along, and that was so surprising. Like, I think someone did the calculations, and all Checo had to do was finish with, I think it was like 296 or 298 points. I didn't even come close to that.
I would give all the money in the world to see Liam Lawson's contract. Do you remember they were talking about Sergio Perez, and they were like, oh, you need to have at least half of Max Verstappen's points to guarantee your drive and all this type of thing. I wonder if there's any strange clauses in his contract. But this is why I think they saw Ferrari, they saw McLaren having 2 fairly competitive cars. And McLaren will tell you they don't have a 1 or 2 driver. Obviously, if Lando Norris could have won the Drivers' Championship, they were going to try and favour him, right? But it's all about the team. It's all about papaya rules, right? But I think Red Bull are changing tact a bit. I think they can probably see Max Verstappen kind of 1 foot out the door. So I think I can generally see we're going to be a bit fairer this year. I think probably they're going to get, if there's upgrades, both cars are going to try and get those upgrades. And they're probably going to listen a bit more to Liam Lawson. I don't think they listened to Sergio Perez about anything. And that's a detriment. He was essentially driving Max Verstappen's car pretty much. That's everything was just tailored toward Max.
Which had suited Checo up until this year, or at least, I think I said it last time, until like the second half of even last season. But I do agree that they're changing tact. I think they're kind of looking towards the future, and they are trying to bring in a younger driver to kind of mold into the team. So I do hope they give him the time to settle in. But I do think that if he doesn't start showing some sort of sign of goodness, shall we put it, then I think he will be shown the door pretty sharpish. And, you know, there's a couple of drivers in VCarb that are ready and waiting to take that seat. And I think I did feel for Yuki Tsunoda. I really, really did.
Let's talk about Yuki Tsunoda, right? So actually, 8 of the 20 drivers that are going to line up on the F1 grid are Red Bull Junior drivers, right?
Yep.
That's too much for me. I'm not going to get into how much I hate that, but look, that's the way they come in, right?
Well, just to clarify also, they're from the Red Bull Academy, which doesn't necessarily mean that they've driven for the Red Bull Formula 1 team. It just means that they have been like sponsored by Red Bull and financed by Red Bull coming up through the ranks, just like a lot of drivers have done with Mercedes, McLaren, and especially Ferrari as well. So let's not forget that.
She gets very sensitive, doesn't she?
But,
oh my lord.
But himself also gets very like aggro anti-Red Bull all the time, when actually, you know, he's blinded by all of his favourite teams. So someone's got to keep him in check.
I have been praising Max Verstappen, but let's talk.
You have actually.
Let's talk about Yuki Tsunoda. Will Yuki Tsunoda leave at the end of this season on a pure principle of you're never going to give me a drive in the main car?
Yeah, I think he's going to Daniel Ricciardo it and feel so put out that he's just going to go, do you know what, F all y'all. He'll definitely use the word, I'm just trying to be polite. Yeah, I'd say he's going to be like so mad that he didn't get this opportunity. He has like beaten every single teammate that he's had, like in the head-to-heads. Why he didn't get it, they can't give a reasonable answer for that. Like, no, when they are asked outright, they are not able to give a reasonable answer for it.
Shall we talk about new driver? And excuse me for the horrendous way I'm going to try and pronounce this man's name.
Oh, hang on, I'm gonna actually pull up his name now so I can see and judge.
So Isaac Hadjar.
That's about as well as I could do with it as well.
Look at that. So AlphaTauri got a brand new driver. Where did this come from? Formula 2 is where he came from, but this was not on anybody's radar from what I could tell.
Did he not finish second?
Yeah, but I hadn't heard anybody talk about him coming to Formula 1.
Oh, no, I did, sorry.
Oh, did you?
I forget to tell you?
Yeah,
sorry. So
rude.
basically, because once Gabriel Bortoleto, he was the one that won the Formula 2 season, and Isaac?
Yes, Isaac, yes.
Sorry, brief moment of panic when I was like, I've already forgotten his name.
Isaac Hadjar, yes.
He finished second, and once Bortoleto had been confirmed for Sauber, suddenly Isaac's name was getting thrown in as well for the rumoured empty VCarb seat. They were apparently also considering him for the Red Bull seat.
Really?
Yeah.
Our kind of Max Verstappen straight in ish. I know but ish, you know what I mean? Like, they were going to throw Max Verstappen straight into the Red Bull seat as well, and they're like, you go down there, win us some races down there if you can, or get as high as you can. And he did it very well. But like, that guy's French guy, Formula 2, the jump up though from Formula 2 to Formula 1 is absolutely massive. And we have seen that with drivers who have come up that just struggle.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult. Like, the cars are just so much faster. The brakes are so much better in Formula 1. Like, you've heard like Colapinto saying like, it's different. It is just so different. And what was the Ferrari guy? Gee, my God, Oliver Biermann. Right?
Yeah.
He was like, he couldn't believe the difference. Now, he did incredibly well. Like, he was meant to be in a Formula 2 qualifying session, and he finds himself in a Formula 1 qualifying session and then a race. And like, he did very, very well. But I think the step up from Formula 2 to Formula 1 is absolutely massive. And this guy, he's only going to have, one test session now before the start of the season. He'll obviously be in the simulator wall to wall. But look, another French driver in Formula 1. So
yeah,
it's good for France.
It is good for France. And also, I think what's really impressive, especially between himself and Bortoleto, Bortoleto, he won the Rookie of the Year at the FIA ceremony recently enough. But he won the F2 championship in his first season in Formula 2. So did Charles Leclerc. I think George Russell did as well. I think Piastri did as well. So he's kind of following in from a lot of the top drivers. So Isaac coming second to someone of that caliber, I do think he's probably got a good head on his shoulders. I think he should do very well for VCarb, if that's what their name is next year. It's going to be interesting to see, because we're going to have so many rookies on the grid.
I was just going to say, if you look at the driver lineup for 2025, Red Bull, Verstappen, non-rookie, Lawson, Look, Mercedes.
Does Lawson still have his rookie status? If Behrman doesn't, then Lawson doesn't.
He doesn't even have a full season. I think you got to put rookie beside Lawson.
Well, I'd say
unexperienced, right?
Yes,
inexperienced.
We'd say newbie as opposed to rookie.
Yeah, newbie. Okay, Antonelli at Mercedes.
Yeah.
Right? And how is Hulkenberg still in this sport? I don't know. He's hanging on by the skin of his teeth. I love him. I think I prefer Kevin Magnussen than Hulkenberg, but Hulkenberg is there. Bortolello is the rookie.
Let's put a pin in this for a second.
Kevin Magnussen. Always have.
So I do like Kevin Magnussen, but I always have liked Nico Hulkenberg, and I just feel like he has been in the sport for so long, and the man has like come so close to a podium on so many occasions, and he's just never gotten it.
Yeah.
I feel for him, but he is always entertaining, and I hope that the team keep the green colouring, because then there's going to be so many Hulk memes.
That I do hate the name though. Kick Sauber.
Oh, it is terrible.
I hate it. So Williams, then Albon and Sainz. Actually, we forgot about Williams. Sainz at Williams is going to be really interesting. We touched on it in the first episode. Who's the number one driver? I don't know. That's going to be very interesting to watch. Then you have Haas, Berman and Ocon. Berman is the rookie there. Tsunoda and Hadjar. Hadjar is the rookie there. And Alpine, you've got Gasly and Doohan. And Doohan's the rookie there. There are so many rookies on this grid.
Oh my God, I forgot about Jack. Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting first corner.
Oh my God, yeah. I might actually have to get up early and watch that.
Let me talk a little bit, if you allow me. We've touched on it very briefly. Is Lewis Hamilton donning the red suit, which it hurts me.
This is such a big moment that yes, it does need the time to discuss, because I think that you and I heard the rumors the day before they announced it. And we're just like, this can't be happening. This can't be true. He's literally just extended his contract with Mercedes.
Yeah, I think we both said, no, there's no way. Like, there's no way this is happening. If this is just like a rumor that's going around, there's no chance.
Yeah, and because Sainz had been doing so well also, they had already just confirmed that Charles was staying on. So the only person that he could be replacing would be Carlos. Yeah. And we just went, I know, but Carlos has been doing so well. They ain't gonna let him go.
So
we were wrong.
seven-time Mercedes world champion, right? So always in a Mercedes powered car, right? McLaren or actual Mercedes works team. I was shocked at this. I thought Lewis Hamilton was going to finish his career at Mercedes. I suppose he's just a little boy at heart. He's always wanted to drive a Ferrari. But this seems to be more than just a jolly for a year from Ferrari to get some sponsorship in. They've given him a 2-year contract, or at least a year with a year extension. They are hoping that he is going to win them a world championship, or at least be a very close second for Charles Leclerc. I dismissed this straight away. I was like, this is going to be a disaster. He's not going to engage. He's not going to have Bono. Nothing is going to happen here. It's going to be awful. I now think, and I'm very fearful, because I don't really like Ferrari. As much as I love Lewis Hamilton, I will not be donning a red Ferrari top to support Lewis Hamilton. I'm more of a team supporter than a driver one, and I really, really don't wish him any bad will. But if he crashes out in his first race, so be it. Do you know what I mean? If he has to retire in his first race, if he has to finish the lowest possible ranking ever, I will be happy with that.
I feel like I'm suddenly doing a podcast with my mother, because that's what she wishes at every single race.
But I kind of feel like he's slighted me, and he owes us nothing as Mercedes fans. But it's like Peter Schmeichel went to play for Man City after he played for Manchester United. It's very similar to that. Do you know what?
It's now a good time to point out to our listeners that you are also a Manchester United fan, so you should already have a lot of red in your wardrobe.
And I do have a lot of red in my wardrobe. And we're recording this on Sunday, the 22nd of December, where Manchester United are actually being beaten 3-0 at home by Bournemouth. So I'm already in a bad mood with them. Right? So anything red at the minute, I'm not happy with. I wish him well, but if it's coming up to it, and actually, do you know what's going to be the real test for me? I'm very harsh on Verstappen with penalties. I think the stewards are overly lenient with him.
They were.
Oh, apart from when it doesn't matter.
No. I will say that whoever this new person is, he was just handing them out willy-nilly, like lollipops, to everybody. So, yeah, I'd say next season's going to be very different in that sense.
If Hamilton and Verstappen are now in a duel together, I will be interested to see what side my initial opinion goes, and whether it's going to go with always like, well, Max clearly he just didn't give any room there, or will I be like, typical Ferrari, So I'm interested to see when that happens, to be fair.
I am too, because like it is literally, you're gonna be like, it's not Sophie's choice, it's a catch-22 for you.
It is.
You're just not gonna know which way to look.
I don't really like George Russell, right? And as I say, I don't know him as a person, right? There's no slide on him as a human being.
We can only judge by what we see via social media or in these interviews.
So I'm not a massive George Russell fan, never was, but I'm still a Mercedes fan. Arguably more of a McLaren fan from my Mika Hakkinen days, but I definitely did drift towards Mercedes, especially with Lewis Hamilton, I suppose. So I will now struggle to follow Mercedes as closely. Maybe I'll more tend to look at Norris and Piastri. It's gonna be a difficult 2025 season for me, actually. You still have your beloved Max Verstappen, though.
Well, one thing that even someone said it to me after listening to episode 1, they were like, yes, you're a Max stan, but if you said who's your favourite drivers, like my favourite driver was Daniel Ricciardo. And if it was a case of Daniel versus Max for anything, I would be cheering for Daniel over Max. Maybe it's the underdog thing, but like he was my favourite driver when he was racing for all of his different teams. So in that sense, like Max, I think, is the most talented driver on the track, and whenever it is a case of him fighting for the championship, I do like to support him, because I do think he is a worthy champion. He has proven it now 4 times. I would like to see Max get a 5th championship, because I think he is deserving of it. I think he's just been such a good ambassador for the sport, and I think he has flown the flag of the sport very well. But again, we speculated on this. He could be gone by 2026 or by the end of 2026. Hamilton could be gone by the end of 2026. And after certain comments by Fred Vasseur, Sainz could be going back to Ferrari once Hamilton retires. What do you think of that?
If I was Carlos Sainz, I wouldn't darken their doorway again. Now, maybe that's just coming from a silly, non-professional place where I'm like, look, if they're going to pay me $20 million, maybe I will go and sit in their car again. But I would feel slighted from them. I would feel outraged, really, because he performed very, very well this year. He outperformed in that Ferrari car. He outperformed in his white race suit in the Williams post-season test.
Sorry, yes, we need to hit on that. He topped the tables in the post-season test with in a Williams. So who knows? Williams could have a rocket under their butts this year.
It's hard to judge that test on what was actually being tested, I suppose, sometimes. But look, yeah, you gotta say Williams with Carlos Sainz at the wheel could be very good. The only problem I have is if Alex Albon starts coming second to Carlos, does his head begin to wobble again? Mm-hmm. Does he go back into himself again? Is he strong enough to be able to be a 10-10 qualifying position, 10 each, or is he able to be, you know what, I need to do best for my team here, I can do Carlos this week, like they do in McLaren. Obviously, I'd love to be in their pre-race meetings, because they all seem to be, okay, yes, we're all very agreeable, but then, of course, they're racing drivers. Lando Norris gets behind the wheel and he goes, we can't do this. Why? He's like, but you agreed to this. No, this is not good for the team. It's not good for me. But you agreed to this already, mm-hmm. I do agree with you. Piastri has seems to have a more mature head on his shoulders than Lando Norris does, and I always think that's a problem with Lando Norris. He needs to just calm down a bit and mature. I understand the lad is in his 20s. I get it.
Yeah.
But please, you have so much potential, and I would love Lando Norris to win a world championship.
Yeah, and I do agree that, like, as I think Max even said it to him, he's like, you are a world champion in the making. This just wasn't your year. As he says, holding the big massive trophy. Like, not to rub it in, but this just wasn't your year. I was like, oh, the shade, Max. Oh my God. I just think it's quite interesting with Fred Vasseur saying that the door was always going to be open for Carlos, and the fact that both Carlos and Hamilton appear to be on 2-year contracts. Mm-hmm. So I do suspect, is there some sort of plan for Sainz that this is just like a little sabbatical from Ferrari to let Lewis get his flowers at Ferrari and then go off and drive off into the sunset?
There was no real complaints from Carlos Sainz. The more you think about that, actually, he was not very vocal on, like he said, he was disappointed, I think, but he always said, I'm really excited to race for Williams. I'm really excited for next year, what's to come. He never really shadowed over Ferrari. Now, I didn't expect him to, but there actually was no bad feeling at all. You may have stumbled upon what exactly is going to happen in 2 years' time.
If this circles back and in 2 years' time, I'm going to be here sipping champagne and being just like, doing the dance from Will and Grace. Told you so, told you so, told you so, told you so.
That makes so much more sense to me now that you say that.
Yeah, it's just something that once Fred sort of said those words, I was like, oh, and they did like make such a lovely big fuss over Carlos to like send him off, and we saw all the pictures of him like bawling, crying in the pits and things like that.
Yeah. So what is the long-term goal for Ferrari here?
I think that. So basically, when Lewis sort of signed on to them, Ferrari were still kind of shitting the bed a little bit. But then towards the, like, they were second in the championship. They were still fighting until that last race. So they did, and like this next season, it's the last year before the big rule changes. So it's always a kind of interesting year for people to see like who's going to actually like come to the foreground. So who knows? It could be a Ferrari year that maybe they're hoping to get him to at least help them win the championship as a constructors. I don't know if they see him as a number 2 to Charles, but it's kind of like, how do you figure out who is going to be the number 1 there? Is it the person who's been there the longest, or is the person that you've just spent 100 million on?
But if Lewis Hamilton outshines Charles Leclerc for 2 years, how can you bring Carlos Sainz back and then go, okay, our number 1 driver is Charles Leclerc? That can't work. He would have had his chance. He would have had his chance at this point.
Yeah,
like that's being harsh. Like they might come 1 and 2. You know, it's hard to.
It depends on how secondary is in comparison.
Like, if he's Sergio Perez territory, he's in serious trouble. But yeah, I just wonder about the long-term goals of Ferrari. Are they just commercial? Do they just want Lewis Hamilton? The fact that Hamilton changed from wearing silver clothes to wearing red clothes on the very final day of
that was so funny, because he clearly knew exactly what he was doing, and even there was fans showing up in the Mercedes thing, and then one guy lifted up his top and showed that he was wearing a red t-shirt underneath it, like, and all Lewis did was like, I see what you did there.
One of my favourite moments from the post Grand Prix was Bono wearing Lewis's clothes.
Yes, the Tommy Hilfiger denim outfit.
And do you know what? Like, some of Lewis's clothes look ridiculous on Lewis. When you see them on someone else, you're going, how is anybody wearing this?
I
this
know.
Is tragic looking.
Yeah, fashion is fashion. Let's just put it that way. Like, neither of us are fashionistas. Let's say that.
I'm wearing a wicked top here.
And I'm wearing a Nightmare Before Christmas jumper. Like, I
think we've proven our point there.
Yeah, exactly. But seeing the video of Lewis suddenly seeing Bono in it as well just made me laugh even more. Like, I don't know how this came to be and how he even got his hands on the clothes without Lewis knowing, but it's still just like stole them from absolutely hilarious.
I have one more question for you about 2026.
Oh, 2026. And not even 2025.
2026. New rules. The biggest change in Formula 1 since they took away refueling again, right? Are the more experienced drivers, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Hülkenberg, will they want to go out on their own terms in 2025 than rather having to wrestle whatever beast of a car is going to come in 2026?
That's a really interesting question, because this has been a topic that I've seen in many discussion boards recently of how younger drivers are just much more adaptable, and that the older you get, or the longer you are in the sport, the more kind of set in your ways you get. Now, I would say Alonso is probably the exception to the rule, because he's been chucked into so many different cars over the years. Like, I'd need to Google this, but I would wonder, has he changed team the most of any driver in Formula 1? Because I actually don't think I could name another driver that's driven for more teams than him.
Modern Formula 1, probably.
Yeah, he has proven that, yes, he's the oldest driver on the grid, but his adaptability has been major. Lewis, I don't think has great adaptability, but once he gets settled in, he can be phenomenal. Max is only really driven for one team. So when the car suddenly goes a bit like crap, yes, he's effing and blinding down the radio. But once they kind of go, this is the car you've got, he goes, okay, fine, I'll drive it. Oh, look at me, I'm going to finish in first anyways. You know, that kind of way. So like, I'd say he is adaptable, but he's stubborn about it, is how I'd phrase that. But then all these new younger drivers that, like we just said, there's so many rookies on the grid this year. So they're still going to be very green when all these new changes come in. So it's going to be easier for them to adapt, I'd say.
Shall I share with you what Red Bull gave their employees as Christmas presents this year?
Yes, please do. I'm dying to know.
So, the very first thing they got was a signed in very much inverted commas Christmas card from Max Verstappen. The next thing they got was a miniature replica of his race helmet.
Oh, his helmet. Oh, cool.
And the visor actually opens and there's padding inside. It literally looks like it could fit a really small Max Verstappen. It's so cool.
As in like baby Verstappen.
A baby Verstappen. On the way.
On the way.
This is why I also think he won't be here in 2026, but that's neither here nor there. Then they got this really fancy bottle of tequila that I've never heard of before, but apparently it's really fancy. It's Patron El Ato. It's like a greeny bluey bottle.
It's the Patron.
Patron, that's the one. Yes. Yes.
Patron El Alto.
El Alto, yeah.
So basically, my again, I could be totally wrong, but I love tequila. I love tequila. Like, so I do
Always
know of that one. Always drink responsibly. But if Ciaran just looks to his left, he'll see a very similar bottle up there, but it's not Patron. That is the Don Julio.
But it's the same shape and everything.
So
it's an elongated box.
So basically, that's the 60th anniversary bottle of Don Julio, which is divine. You drink it basically like a whiskey. Like it's a sipping tequila, yeah. Because there are tequilas that are that fancy.
Like a shot of it, you sip.
Yeah, so you know the way you pour like a measure of whiskey. You do the same thing with that, and just have a little sip. Sometimes I would have it without ice. Sometimes I'd have like just a single cube.
I can't believe the box up there is really similar to this box.
It is, but so I think that is the Patron kind of this. We want this to be like our fancy Don Julio.
Okay.
Because Patron, they are quite a fancy brand, but Don Julio I think is fancier.
The final present then they give them is, and I love the fact that it's 2023 jacket that they're giving them, because it has 2023 World Champions constructors on it, because obviously they're not 2024 constructor World Champions. But there's a lovely jacket, like a proper race jacket, like a merch jacket, I'd say.
Nice.
If you're going to buy it in the shop, it's probably like €400.
Yeah, and whenever I see somebody wearing it like on the street, it's like, A, yes, I know how expensive it is, but B, I'm so jealous. I want one so bad.
Actually, I saw the new Ferrari collection of merch. It's like an ultimate collection. Things are like hundreds of euro each, and I'm like, what is happening to the merch? I don't think I have any Formula One merch apart from when I bought my little Lego Formula One replica 2023 car of McLaren, and I built it all like an hour and a half, and I was so pleased with myself. 100 steps, and it's really small, really good sense of achievement when I finished it.
Yeah, it's part of the Lego Speed
it is
bit.
Yes.
But the older one, the new one's coming out
March 1st of March. I was like, I'm going to 1st of March. I gotta wait. But
I'm dying to get my hands on some of that. I have to say,
there is a fuller sized, not a full size, a larger scale Ferrari.
Yep,
that looks amazing.
They've done a few different versions of that. So there's a Mercedes, so it's the Lego Technic line. So there's the Mercedes. There's also the Papaya, the McLaren, because we actually have one ourselves. It's hiding upstairs somewhere. Or I'd bring it out to show you. It's in the attic, I think, in the office. So I'd bring it out, but like that's a lot of stairs, and I'm not going up.
But I want to say fair play to Red Bull for gifting their employees some really cool things.
Yeah, I'm sure the other teams did some nice stuff too. This was just the only one that we.
I seen it on TikTok. So thank you for the girl sharing it on TikTok. I mean, it's great.
It's a nice little insight, actually.
I think I now want 20 little mini helmets in my house. So yeah, I think I want to now build a cabinet with 20 little mini helmets in it.
That'd be very cute.
It would be cute, wouldn't it?
That'd be very cute. Yeah, I have my Red Bull shirt, like button-up shirt that I mentioned last time. I've got a Max Verstappen baseball cap. I have a little miniature Red Bull racing car that I actually got from Red Bull, which was a nice little gift when I went to the
Showrun.
The showrun in the one in Dublin now, not the one in Galway. I was abroad for Galway.
That is all the Formula 1 news that there is right now.
Yeah.
Since I'm recording on the 22nd of December. Little Christmas break. But I guarantee you, when Christmas is over, we are going to be wheeling back out, and the Formula 1 teams are going to be wheeling back out not only their Formula 1 cars, but that lovely braking template. And we're going to have some more interesting news coming, I think.
I can't wait to see what January brings, because it's February when we're getting the cars launching, and all the cars are going to be launching on the same day at the special event in
the O2 in London.
The O2. I was like, what's it called again? It's because it used to be called the Millennium Dome, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
There we go. For the first time ever, all the cars are going to be launching at the same time. So I think that's also going to be very interesting. I'm sure there's going to be some gossip after the backstage antics from that.
Max Verstappen said this on his live stream with Lando Norris. They were gaming. And he said, that's not going to be the car that's actually going to turn up in Australia at the first race. He was like, it's basically just a kit livery. Is essentially, he was like, why is everybody going to this? That's not going to be the car. That's just going to be like a kit of what's potentially going to be the car. Do you remember Mercedes did that and they came with no side pods?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So he is essentially saying, don't bother going to this. They've sold like tickets.
The tickets sold out in 3 hours or something.
Like, minutes.
Oh, it was minutes?
It was minutes, right? Tickets sold out for this. Then there was like, there was not that many tickets available. We'll talk about that event
when it comes up. But like, I think it's a good thing to keep an eye out for.
I think it's hilarious that he was just like, no, why would you bother going? That's not going to be the car. You're literally not going to be looking at the real car. And I was like, you can just see FIA chiefs going, oh, Max, like, please, we're trying to do a big.
We do not want to get an influx of emails of people being like, I'm on a refund.
And he's going to hate going to all the drivers are going to be there, all the teams are going to be there, all the cars potentially going to be there. So it's going to be an interesting event. And I like that Formula 1 are doing different things. And I like that it's in London and not in like Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia or somewhere like they could have brought it.
I think it being in London as well, because like Formula 1 technically originated in the UK. So bringing it back home, so to speak, I think is a nice nod, because as we were saying, like, we're getting so many more American races, we're getting so many more races in the Middle East, we're getting more races out in Asia as well. So as Piastri was saying, you need to remember that this started off as a European thing. We need to still respect the European audiences. Bringing it back to London, I think, is a very clever move.
I think we'll have to do our maybe ultimate favourite Formula 1 race.
Oh, I do have one, actually.
Oh, do you? Okay, keep it to yourself. And we will do, maybe we might do that in our next episode, Olivia's ultimate Formula 1 race.
Perfect. And there's a lot to discuss from that race as well. And I think another fun topic to discuss that I think a lot of people listening would also enjoy is going through some of the worst drivers that have ever sat in a Formula 1 car and raced, because I watched a listicle video on YouTube there recently, and some of the names that I saw, I was just like, oh my God, do you remember them? I think that'd be very, very fun to chat through.
That's an interesting topic. I do.
There you go. Because everyone always talks about the best drivers of all time. No one ever talks about the worst, and there's been many of them.
Recency bias will tell you Mazepin's the top of that list. But we will wait and see. That is episode 2 of Stop the Lights. Follow us, please, on Instagram. Send us any comments, questions, or hate for Olivia's love of Max Verstappen.
Or hate for Ciaran, just
in general. I got there before you. Stop the Lights Pod on Instagram is where you can find us there.
Yes, and for anybody who has been trying to find us on some of the other platforms, if you are having difficulty, if you go to the main page of the Podbean page, there are these little icons underneath the name that you can click on, and that'll bring you to your streaming preference. So if it's Spotify or Apple, you can click on the little icons there and you'll be able to listen to us to your heart's content.
I'll wrap it all up and say Happy New Year for 2024.
Yes.
No, Happy New Year 2025.
2025, yeah, you're just going back in time. You're like, the clock will strike midnight and we'll be back at the 2024 season again.
No, I can't do 2024 again. It was too wild for me. Olivia.
It was wild.
Thank you very much, and we'll chat to you in 2 weeks' time.
Yep, see you then.